All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our little session about Lubuntu here. I am Walter Lapczynski. I'm the Lubuntu release manager and the team leader for quality assurance. And I'm going to be presenting some slides here, so I'm about to disappear for a moment. But if anyone needs help getting on the Google Hangouts or IRC, now might be a time to perk up about that. All right, well, if I don't hear from anyone, I'm going to go straight to the slides then. And here we go. So my hope is that everyone can see the slides now. If not, please let me know. This is the first time I'm doing this, so bear with me if I don't exactly know what I'm doing. Black screen. Why is that? Oh, now you see them. Okay, let's try that again. Here, I'm just going to go for it. Bother me if it doesn't work. Like, join the session and bother me. Okay. So here we are. We are presenting the latest developments in Lubuntu development, which is sort of a punny way of saying that we'll be talking about new news as it happens. But first, let's talk about some old news. What is Lubuntu? I chose to present three things here that all start with L's, because it is Lubuntu after all. So Lubuntu uses the LXDE desktop environment. You might be used to Unity on Ubuntu, KDE on Kubuntu, XFCE on Xubuntu, or GNOME on Ubuntu GNOME. We don't use any of those. We use LXDE. It does use the OpenBox window manager, and it has several other components that are kind of specific to it. There's the LX session manager. There's LX task, the task manager, LX terminal, the terminal, and so on and so forth. Although it does use LightDM instead of LXDM. Lubuntu is also composed of a set of lightweight applications. So just like all the other flavors of Ubuntu, it has its own little applications. And though those applications are chosen for being lightweight, you can still browse, check email, instant message, torrent, and otherwise do all the things you would normally do with any one of the other flavors. You, of course, can select any applications that you want just by pulling them from the Ubuntu repositories. So if you wanted to use, Compiz and do some crazy 3D compositing, you could. You just have a later base for it. Lubuntu is also great for low-end machines because it is focused on being lightweight. Thus, it's wonderful for reducing electronic waste. An example of this that I think is very relevant is that PowerPC architecture, which was most commonly used by Apple before they switched over to Intel. It's gotten to the point where almost nobody supports it anymore. And indeed, nobody officially supports it in the Ubuntu world. but Lubuntu has been trying very hard to support it from the community. So here's an interesting case study. The Lester B. Pearson School Board is in Montreal. It consists of 60 schools and about 22,000 students. And a recent change in the vision of the administration allowed open source to flourish there. And they've been changing over their computer labs to reflect this. And a major example is they've been working really hard on changing all the old machines from Microsoft to Linux. So they started in April 2014, and they've converted 3 computer labs and 100 or more computers to Lubuntu. And the nice thing about this is that in order to essentially make their hardware usable again, they spent no money except for labor, of course, and that savings will allow them to get more technology, which of course will benefit the students. So this is one very practical way that Lubuntu is making a difference out there in the world, making a difference for our children, who of course are the future. So here's a little history on Lubuntu. And it's an interesting history. Lubuntu began in October 2008 as the Lubuntu desktop package. So if anybody has really old versions of Ubuntu for some reason and they want to use Lubuntu, they can just install the package. And that's actually something you can still do to this day. But they were invited to become an official derivative in February 2009. That's when the work began on that. And a preview version of Lucid Links was released in 2010. The first officially Ubuntu sanctioned version came with Oneric Ocelot in October of 2011. And we even made the jump at long last to officially releasing an LTS version, a long-term support version, in April of 2014 with Precise Penguin. And then, of course, there's the future history. Our hope is that come April 2015's Vivid Vervet, we will actually have a version without the GTK toolkit being used, but Qt instead. So you'll be hearing a lot about that in this presentation, as it will mean a major difference to the core of the basis, if you will, of Lubuntu. It's probably not going to change the way Lubuntu looks very much, or what it's like to interact with Lubuntu, but there are applications that we use that are only functional with the GTK toolkit, don't have a Qt version, so some applications may change a bit. So now I'd like to talk about the Lubuntu team, because Lubuntu would not exist without the team of volunteers that pour in their time and energy to keep it running. And I also wanted to use this as an opportunity to encourage people to join the team, because there is a place for everyone. And what that means is that you don't need to be technically savvy, and you don't need to be a developer in order to contribute to the Lubuntu team. The other advantage to helping out with Lubuntu is that you get free job training. The team is more than happy to help get you up to speed at whatever the thing that you may want to do is. And if it's a matter of learning something new, we're willing to help out with that too. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that those contributions, whatever they may be, can be used to apply for Ubuntu membership, which has many advantages, probably the most important of which is that you can help guide the direction of Ubuntu as a whole by being able to have voting privileges for the community council. So here is the 9 sub-teams that essentially make up Lubuntu. So I'm going to be talking about each of these in more detail, but here's sort of like the major bullet points. So first, there's documentation. The responsibility there is obviously keeping the wiki pages organized. The IRC team is responsible for maintaining the Lubuntu and Lubuntu off-topic channels on Freenode. The admin team is upper management, if you will. They're leading the leaders. The brainstorming team thinks up new ideas for our next moves. The translation team works hard at making Lubuntu approachable for people regardless of language. The comms or communication team is responsible for marketing and evangelizing. The artwork team, of course, makes things pretty. The quality assurance team does testing and bug triage to produce the best possible product. And development does code. Obviously, that's a very important one, but it kind of brings up the point that coding and really, for the most part, technical jobs are only a very small portion of the work being done. So I really want to emphasize that there is indeed a place for everyone. So first we'll talk about the documentation team. Sergio is our team leader here. The documentation team is most well known as the wiki team, but their work is focused on keeping the documentation up to date and organized. And it's currently split into 2 teams, the wiki team and the documentation team, and that's kind of, they're both located on the wiki itself, but the documentation specifically refers to items that are about how to use Lubuntu, how it works, and the rest of the wiki is everything else kind of supporting the Lubuntu team and various pages there. Like every cycle, the Lubuntu documentation team will be working on the same stuff as usual, although they may have a little bit extra work with LXQT. Next, we have the IRC team. Unit 193 is the team leader there. There's 2 channels on Freenode IRC. This is a little bit different than the way a lot of the other flavors are. We don't have 12 million channels, we just have 2. And Lubuntu is for support. That's a logged channel. So we ask people that want support to bring their items up there so that it can be logged and other people can search those logs for related items. And secondly, the Lubuntu off-topic channel is for basically everything else. And kind of anything goes there, from discussion about development or testing to the latest going-ons in sports. And so the job is of the IRC team is to basically keep everyone playing nice and to make sure that we're all getting along and ultimately fulfilling the guidelines that the code of conduct purports and the kind of rules for Ubuntu on IRC. And again, they're same work as usual. And the admin team is a new team led by Svetlana Belkin, who's known as Belkinsa on IRC. And this team basically gives team leaders a forum to communicate on what's going on to the whole team. So that kind of keeps us from working in silos. For example, there may be some new news that the development team is working on that might otherwise end up in a mailing list that maybe marketing might not see, but would be valuable to post up about. So this gives us one forum where we can all kind of see what's going on. The other nice thing about this is that it allows teams to really do what they do best and let the admin team kind of organize everything. So this cycle, I believe that the team will mainly be focused on cleaning up ideas from the brainstorming team in past sessions, because most of the work is focused on one of the major items of the brainstorming team, LXQT. And so there's a lot of other items that are not necessarily related to that that they'll be working on cleaning up. Then we have the Lubuntu brainstorming team, speaking of which, where the team leader is Julian, and I didn't put his IRC nick here. He's Gillard, G-I-L-I-R. He's not often on, as he is our head of development as well. But more or less, the brainstorming team is responsible for project management. And this is where we're going to be coming up with new ideas, whether it be for development or maybe for the administration or the organization of the team. And this all happens through blueprints on Launchpad. Last major idea was LXQT, and we're actively working on that. And as I said on the last slide, this cycle's work will be a bit more administrative. Then we have the Lubuntu translation team. We currently have Rafael Laguna heading up that team. Historically, it's been focused on software translation. And at that time, Rafael was not the team leader there. And a lot of that stuff is kind of hello again. Gosh, I have no idea what happened. I'm really sorry about that, everyone. I understand the slides weren't moving either. I guess we'll try this again. Give me a second. Well, for everybody's consolation, I was pretty much reading off the slide, so don't worry about that. All right, let's try this again. Give me a second. All right, I think I got this figured out now. I think the full screen was the problem. All right, can you guys see that now? Now hearing everything. Is everybody else hearing everything twice? Okay. Well, Mark over there in IRC, I don't know what's going on with your echo. Yeah, there are people in the background. Sorry, I'm at work. You know, the paying job and all. All right. All right. So I'm going to scroll through the slides here. Somebody hanging over my head here for no good reason. Can I make it bigger? Let's see. Stupid slides. Why does it have to be this? So, you guys see that? I'm going to undo it for a second. Just let me know if you saw that. You did see it? Okay. Now I'm going to, the only way for me to do this apparently is to go full screen. So I can't see IRC. So if you want to come bother me, come on IRC, come on the Hangout. All right, I'm going to work. All right, so by the way, here is that picture from the school board. This is some of their laptops that they've kind of redone. All right, so where was I? IRC team, admin team, brainstorming team, translation team. So we've kind of added a new sub-team that we decided to call Global that focuses on translating the documentation as well as just the software. And its first bit of work was in Utopic Unicorn, where we actually had the release notes in 8 different languages. So that was very exciting. We had a lot of help from the community on that one. And as far as this cycle, they're going to make marketing wiki subpages for different languages. And we'll still probably need help with software translation, since the people doing that translation may not be coming with the translation to LXQT. Right, I'm going to check IRC one more time because I just want to be sure. Okay. Still no scroll. Okay, I give up. We're going to make this a window. It's going to be really small, and I'll post the slide somewhere else. And I'll just talk. And if you can't see it, well, say la vie. I tried. All right. La la la. All right, I know you're seeing it now because now I can see it. All right. So here we have the Lubuntu comms team. Jens, aka Silver Lion, is our team leader there. And this deals with blogging, marketing, social media, and of course, evangelizing and spreading the word of Lubuntu. So this cycle, we have quite a few new items. Jens is always hard at work coming up with new ideas. And he is planning on a survey for the local communities to get a feeling of their work with Lubuntu. So maybe, for example, he could figure out presentation material that he might be able to provide them with. It'll be preparing general information about 1401 and procuring video and flyers that, again, local communities could help use. And working on a press material wiki, which will have the latest teasers and a PDF of the current development overview for local communities. Obviously, a lot of focus on local communities. He just went to a event with the German local community, and it was very inspiring and exciting. And of course, he's going to be collecting information about LXQT to be prepared for the switch. And of course, we have the artwork team, where this is where Rafael Laguna spends most of his time. He is our wonderful graphic designer. He's responsible for the Lubuntu design guidelines. We have our own, just like Ubuntu does. And he works on promotional items like posters and web banners, etc. He's also responsible for themes and icons that make up how Lubuntu actually looks. And he created Lenny, our wonderful blue-haired mascot, who you can see here on this slide in his Lenicorn format for Utopic Unicorn. This cycle, we'll be doing the usual community wallpaper contest, which is kind of held through Flickr. So if you guys are graphic designers, that's a great way to get involved. You don't even have to do anything else except make a wallpaper and hope it gets voted on. He'll be working on new artwork for LXQT. It'll probably have the same general look as I said before, but obviously we'll need to have new artwork since it's a different toolkit. And perhaps we'll have some additional themes. Now we come to my realm, the Lubuntu Quality Assurance team. We really take care of three things. ISO testing, so what that means is every cycle we come up with alphas and betas before the final is actually released. And we're actually testing those before they do get released and making sure that they're installing fine and seem to be running fine. And of course, we're doing daily testing as well, even outside of the releases, just to be sure that there aren't any regressions or anything that are popping up. And since a lot of that is involved in reporting bugs, another part of the QA's team job is bug triage. So this is where we're doing a rather important thing that kind of gets overlooked, but we're taking bugs and kind of verifying them, really clearly defining them, assigning them the right packages, giving them an importance, filing bugs upstream and then linking them on Launchpad, and basically refining the bug enough that the developers actually know enough to be able to do something about it and can prioritize that along with all their other work. And of course, release management is closely tied in here. Through the ISO testing, we can very easily determine whether or not a release is going to come out, and we can determine whether or not we're going to actually release something. For Utopic Unicorn, one of our jobs was deciding on PPC and what we were going to do with it, as there were some really show-stopping bugs that didn't have an obvious solution. And since PPC is something that we don't have a ton of testers for, and it takes some community involvement, we made the decision to focus PPC testing on, or PPC releases rather, on the long-term support releases. That gives us a little bit more time to deal with problems as they come up. We also got rid of the AMD 64 plus Mac image, which wasn't really so much of a decision from Lubuntu release management so much as it was from Ubuntu realizing that basically all the machines which it was targeted for should have firmware updates by now and shouldn't really need that. So that was gone as well. So obviously this cycle we're going to be continuing to work on PPC. We always need more testers. If you have a Power PC, you know, an old Mac, or hey, Wii's, or Xbox 360s, those are Power PCs too. I think Sony PlayStation as well. I've never tried putting one on there, but hey, that might be interesting. We'll also be testing the prototype of the LXQT ISO, which is actually not the ISO that's available with the daily ISOs. We're currently, while we're developing that, we can have that held separately. So you can find more information about that on the QA Team wiki. If you wanted to produce or add the LXQT packages to your existing Lubuntu install, there's also information about that as well. And of course, we're going to be focusing more on bug triage. There hasn't been a huge focus on that from our QA team in the past. So we're going to be focusing a little bit more on that. Currently, I tend to be doing a lot of the bug triage. And you know, I only really focus my efforts on kind of Lubuntu specific packages. There's a Lubuntu packages team on Launchpad that you can subscribe to and get information or updates about bugs that are filed against Lubuntu specific packages. So that's an area where we could use some help. It's obviously not overwhelming. So if you are interested in that, come see me and I can tell you all kinds of stuff about it. Last but not least, we have the Lubuntu development team. This is led by Julian, as I mentioned before, from the brainstorming team. And you know, obviously the responsibility here is package maintenance and coding. You've heard a lot about LXQT mentioned throughout this, and so my hope is now you'll be able to hear it from the man himself. So let me see if I can get him real quick. And meanwhile, we'll get rid of that. While we wait for him, does anybody have any questions or anything they would like answered? My little footer went away, so let me add that again. There we go. Isn't that exciting now? So Mark T on IRC asks when 14.10 will become an LTS release. And sorry for the shaky laptop. This is actually on my lap. The 14.10 is not slated to be an LTS release, not for us or any other part of Ubuntu. So what you'll need to do is look at the release schedule and see when the next LTS release is. That's actually 1604. And I'm going to try to invite our Julian. See if he can come on. Meanwhile, Brendan in IRC asks where to report bugs with LXQT if you need them. This is actually covered in the QA section. Well, I guess the testing section of the Lubuntu wiki. There's an update section in there which talks about some current stuff, and you'll see in there that where is it here? It's actually down below in the bug section. It says that, at least I thought it was. I know that there's a if you have the ISO and you're using the prototype ISO, that's a project called Lubuntu Next. So bugs would be filed against that. But if you're sure it's actually an LXQT component, then you can file a bug on GitHub against the LXQT. And you can find that through github.com/LXDE. There's actually a LXQT portion on there. And if you don't know which one it is, just file it against Lubuntu Next on Launchpad, and we'll deal with triaging that for you. And our boss is having trouble getting on here for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure why. I don't really see any reason why it shouldn't work, but he's on listen only mode. I wonder if that's something you can't just change from a drop down. If anybody who's more experienced with Hangouts than I have, you might want to get on IRC and tell them what to do. Meanwhile, I will try to search it and, of course, answer any other questions that people might have. So feel free to fire them away on IRC or in the Hangout. Guess he's going to try to disconnect and reconnect. Keep the questions coming, folks. I'm sure you have curiosities about LXQT. It appears nobody can join the Hangout for whatever reason. Oh, Lordy. I'm going to try to invite some other people. Huh. Does anybody know how to make it so anybody can be invited? I've invited all sorts of people, and they can't seem to join for whatever reason. Yeah, I don't see anybody in the Hangout either. So something's a little strange there. See if I can find some settings where I can change this or something. Yeah, they don't even give me an option to allow people to join or not, and it is public. I think we're getting it figured out here. See if somebody joins. It'll be miraculous. Did y'all notice I wore blue for Lubuntu? Oh, here is Julian. All right, it is all you, boss.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so it's working now.
Yep.
Okay, so I think you want me to talk about the development stuff for the next cycle. I post three links for three blueprints. One is a summary of the others. Currently, we were going to work on both sides. The GTK side, it's a whole the whole distribution. We have also the Qt side, which is the port to Lubuntu for Qt. We choose LXQt. So we are going to work on both development. For now, we don't know if we are going to switch to Qt this cycle. More I work on this, more I see there is a very lot of work to do. I currently wrote all the to-do list, all the task on the blueprint, so you can see what's going on. I also generate some ISO to test what is the state of the Qt port. The last one is not so bad because it's only Qt 5 and it's KDE free, so you don't have any dependency on KDE. There is also our custom setting, so we have also our artwork, which is apply. So it's working. It's stable, but it's really there are many features which miss between the Qt and the GTK version. So I'm going to continue to work on the Qt port, also on the GTK side. I also do some. I put the task on the blueprint also for the GTK one, so you can see what we are going to do on this side. I think it's all I can say for the two main topics for the development team. If I don't know if people have question for this part. Oh, I think nobody have questions.
So, long story short, the goal is to get LXQT out with the next version, but there's a lot of work ahead of us, and that may or may not actually happen, but it's in the future.
The final goal, yes, is to put LXQt on Lubuntu, but I don't want to do it with too much regression. I know the next version of Lubuntu will not be LTS until 16.04, I think. But I don't want to raise something which is very not buggy, but having a release distribution without some feature will really be a bad communication for the distribution. So I really want to. I want the Qt part to be really to user, but not for common user, for our common user. And for now, it's not really. It's not really. There is this point about regression, and there is also we don't know. We don't know if what the performance with the Qt part. I don't really know for now if it's really light, and I don't want to release something which is heavy or not light enough, because the main purpose of Lubuntu is to be light. So if you release something which is new but not light enough, it's not really good for the Lubuntu image. Yeah. So of course the goal is to put LXQt, but I think we have too much work to do for this release to put LXQt for this cycle.
That makes sense.
I think Phil tried to talk, but I didn't hear him.
Yeah, I didn't either. If you shout loud enough, maybe we'll hear you from way over here, Phil.
Maybe switch off his microphone.
Now his camera dropped out.
Following up on that study and doing some more projects on our own in Carolina.
Is that better?
So
Can barely hear you, Phil. Just barely.
It's a new install, so I don't have the fancy stuff in to get the microphone boosted right up. It's just a question to Julian. Do you think aiming for 1510 is a realistic goal, so that we have one release out before we go to LTS, because the release board are pretty insistent you have a release out prior to going to LTS.
I think it's a good idea to have a release with the switch before the LTS, and I think it's not reasonable to do the switch, sorry, to do the switch for the LTS. For now, I really focus on the Qt part. I'm trying I try to work more on the Qt side, so I currently can do more than I do for now. I can be sure it will be okay for the next cycle. I think we have to reconsider this in 6 months and to see what the work we was able to do during 6 months. Maybe we will have good work, and we will be able to do the switch. At minimum, I would like to push all the pieces in the official repository, so we have something we can build from the official repository at the end of this cycle. If we can manage to do this, I think it's reasonable to. I think the switch will be possible, and of course, if the result is okay. The result that would mean if the performance are good and the regression are not so bad. I currently I can be certain about the switch. I try to do the best I can to prepare this switch. Oh, Phil is not. Phil disappear.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Can hear you quite
Yes.
fine.
Oh, good. Haven't tested it. At first, I should introduce myself. I'm Jörn. I come from Germany, and I want to help the Lubuntu team a bit. I'm doing the new update manager. Well, I try to do it. There's another thing I wanted to talk about. I did some experiments with file systems. Normally, Ubuntu uses mostly X4, X3, but there's BTRFS, sometimes called BetaFS or ButterFS. I don't know what's correct, but I think BetaFS could be fine. It has a compression feature, which could be interesting for Lubuntu, mainly for old EPCs. Some of them only have 4 gigs of hard disk drive, and it's pretty small. Maybe we could convince the Ubuntu team or the Ubiquiti team, the installer, to implement BTRFS with compression, which is currently not possible directly. It needs some tricks to do it, but I think it could be suitable for Lubuntu. It is, at least for me, even faster than without compression. I'm running Kubuntu here. Normally, I need 1 minute and 20 seconds to boot. With compression, only 40 seconds, or roughly the half. There's also a bug report about that. It's number 204187. Well, that's it.
So I think that sounds like a good idea. Our local Linux user group did a talk on ButterFS. Well, that's what they called it, and it seems like it has some value. I think it would be a nice thing to have as an option, at least if we can kind of push that upstream and get it into Debian installer and Ubiquity. I guess that's the biggest issue.
Probably the best thing to do first is to open a bug about this under Ubiquity, so you can open the discussion with the Ubiquity maintainer. And second thing you can do is some testing and some measure of the gain you have. Do comparison between the different file system, so we can have some data to compare between the different file system.
If you look on IRC, it looks like he's already done a bug report. So
Actually, it's not mine bug report. It's quite old, but it's appropriate.
Julian, may it also be worthwhile to set it up for Debian installer so that we could have a look to see if it could go advanced onto alternate installer as opposed to desktop installer?
I'll file it against Debian installer as well, because really the issue is not that it's not in Ubiquity, it's not in any installer. So maybe we can get Debian installer to act on it where Ubiquity might not.
I think it's easier to have it in Debian installer, so we can have in alternate CD. It's probably easier than the Ubiquity way, and also it's easier for testing.
Yeah,
it's probably also a good idea to go with Debian installer.
Just as a second question, Julian, we never actually got to the bottom. Is it worth us progressing and putting ZRAM into our alternate installer? Because we know it makes a big difference for desktop installer, but on the alternate installer, it's not there after you install.
Well, we are at the beginning of the cycle, so I can enable it for the alternate CD to see if there is a difference between with ZRAM and without. So we can test it on dailies and see if there is a difference.
I think for performance it will always make a difference, and as the machines using alternate are usually the ones lower on RAM, I think giving them the advantage of the ZRAM could actually be quite a performance gain for them.
Okay, so I will add it to the to-do list to modify the seed for the alternate, so we can have some dailies to test the impact of this change. We have 5 months to test it and to see if it is stable, and if we keep it for this cycle.
Thanks. Well, we know it works well on desktop, so I don't see any reason how it could cause a regression on alternate, because it's not needed really for the alternate install. I think it's having the ZRAM swap after the alternate install is where the performance gain is going to be, and hopefully we'll be able to see that on the alternate just as we still see it on the desktop one. So
you want ZRAM to be enabled after the installation on an installation?
Yeah, it already is on desktop, isn't it? From what I recall, or it certainly was. What last time I checked Swap on Desktop installer, there was 2 ZRAM instances.
Oh, it was only on live on the CD, not on the installation. We had some
Right.
problem, some cycle. I don't remember when, but we had problem with ZRAM enabled by default. So I remove it on the installation. I keep it only on the CD, on the ISO. Well, maybe we can test it more. I don't know.
I should note that Brandon says it was on the install on 1310, but not later. So that's kind of interesting too. We might want to check the seed.
Yeah, well, certainly if you put it onto the i3, the 32-bit and 64-bit alternate installers, Julian, I'll test the living daylights out of it for you.
Okay, so I will add some to-do point to for ZRAM to do more testing.
Yeah, and just if you could just post something to the QA mailing list, we'll pick up on it and beat it into the ground. Anybody got any other questions now that we're over time a bit here? Well, then I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for showing up. And thank you especially, Julian, for talking about development. Hope you all have a good
Thank
day.
you for the presentation.
Hey, no
Send us the slide.
I definitely will. I'll post that to the mailing list so people can actually see them. Although I was reading off the slide, so it's not that all exciting if you heard me.
Yeah, thank you both, Walter and Julian. Fantastic presentation.
All right, farewell all.
Thank you.